an attacker, a threat actor, they don't really care who bought the phone. They don't care who's managing the phone, whether it's managed, whether it's a BYOD phone or any of that, right? They don't care if you have a work profile on it or not. They don't care if it's segregated. They couldn't care less about any of that. All the things that we sit and agonize about, from a funding and from a privacy and all that. Nobody out there that's on the other side of that, conversation cares one iota.
Hello, everyone. This is your host, Manoj Tandon. Welcome to another episode of Dark Rhino Security Confidential. Please like and subscribe so we can keep generating this content and having great guests like Mr. Stephen Kowski. Stephen has spent a lot of time in cybersecurity in various areas, which he'll enlighten us on, but he is absolutely a cybersecurity expert. He has a robust career, over 2 decades in the business. He's been implementing comprehensive cybersecurity strategies, ensuring robust protections for organizations against all kinds of cyber threats. And his expertise is risk management, compliance, incident response, and innovative security solutions. And he's been involved with a lot of leading tech organizations as well. Stephen, thank you so much for coming on the show. We're honored to have you here.
Yeah, Manoj, thank you very much. I'm extremely excited. I'm gonna have to work really hard to live up to all that you just threw out there to everybody, but extremely happy to be here. I know Dark Rhino. I know you. You guys you do incredible work for your clients, and so excited to chat with you.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you. And for our audience, just full disclosure, Stephen is a partner of ours in the company, and we do work together. But he is awesome, and what he does is awesome. That's why we work together with him. So
I'm at SlashNext. I'm their field CTO, so um, evangelizing the product technically, right? Helping people understand what it does, how it works, those types of things. Other
I was going
things,
to ask you, Stephen. Field CTO.
yeah,
I've never heard that title, man. I mean, what? CTO, yes. Field CTO is like, field marshal, or it's like brings a
right.
special character to the role.
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything, right? On the go-to-market side, right? I'm helping a little bit of product marketing, a little bit of solution architecture with clients. They even let me go out into the real world, not just here remotely, and talk to folks, right, at different conferences or just at Gartner last week, meeting and greeting people. So yeah, it's it's ambiguous, the role, so we're still trying to figure it out every day. But yeah, it's exciting. Gives me a lot of opportunity to help in a lot of different ways. SlashNext and plug in because I have a lot of different kind of weird. My resume, you wouldn't look at it and go, oh, there's a traditional cybersecurity guy.
Oh, so give us that origin story. What did you start life off as?
Oh, well, I was a huge nerdy kid. As I probably won't shock anybody.
No, that's awesome. Go
But
for it.
yeah, I started out, 8, 9 years old building websites, AOL, right? Way back in the
AOL,
day. Yep. Um,
you've
and
got mail.
yeah, absolutely. And my parents kind of saw a passion there, and they, you know, there wasn't a lot around, so I ended up at community college with 30-year-olds learning at websites, and then finally they found this like almost like a computer camp, but what we were actually there to do. I found a couple friends that were more interested. The one kid brought in from his father or something a USB or some kind of drive. I don't even know if we were using USB keys at that time, but with we called it wares at the time, crackers. And the only thing that probably still makes sense is Trojan viruses that we would launch on ourselves, each other, play pranks and all that. Um,
Oh man.
and frankly, I never really. That was my kind of very first exposure to any of that stuff. Um, and I just kind of kept going up until at home when my father got a letter from the ISP for alleged things that they found, may or may not have found. I can neither confirm nor deny. Um, but there's a lot more oversight and restriction on the computer use for a time. But yeah, anyway, went to
Yeah.
so eventually found myself working. Yeah, so the background, just so you're aware, educationally, is I have two electrical engineering degrees and a degree in law. I've never done any of
Now
those
that's an
formally.
eclectic combination. Yeah, I was going to say you don't do any of those two things now, do you?
No. So they are handy. They're handy things on the technical side, very technical, very able to understand these technical concepts. But then, when you talk privacy, compliance, all those fun things, right? That's some of the legal language. I was just translating a contract for somebody last week. So what does this actually mean, Steve? Can so it's helpful in those cases. But yeah, for me, I was kind of in an IT architect role. We had just migrated probably I think it was 70,000 mailboxes from on-prem Exchange to the cloud. And, we were operationalizing that role, that architecture role and that architecture team because the primary kind of goal of it had, kind of completed all the different strategic projects. And then, the CIO sat down with me and kind of asked me, what do you want to do? Um, you know, as you kind of look out and I kind of look back to, a decade ago when I was getting in trouble and said, I keep reading all about this cybersecurity stuff. It's got to be something to that. And,
Yeah.
I know we have a team, so I'd love to see if there's opportunities there. And it kind of went along from there. I got in, my friends over at OffSec gave me some training on web app pen testing. I got into secure coding practices. And then I always stayed very involved in kind of the messaging. So because I was doing night school with the lawyers, I spoke their language. So discovery, e-discovery, those kind of things was kind of a natural fit for them. I could speak their language and also, be a go-between to help them get, whatever they need for various cases. So,
So, I got to ask the question. What two questions actually.
oh, here
So
we go.
first, with the background in electrical engineering, why not go for a chip manufacturer? And you could have been at NVIDIA and been retired a long time ago, or or and in law, join a prestigious law firm and handle these cybersecurity cases where there's money, they're awash in cash. So I, or in fact, that's three questions now that I have. Or because you started in that era of AOL, why not just jump right out and start your own cybersecurity company from day one and have become someone like a Trusted Sec is today?
I frankly been thinking about these questions for a long, long time, Manoj. I wish I had the foresight to kind of see what it would become. I just followed kind of what my own curiosity. That's where I think, yes, there are bigger, better things out there potentially. This chip one is very easy. I did not study semiconductors. I studied power storage, so most of my knowledge is used in social media debates with people saying they don't, ridiculing electric vehicles and they don't really understand, some of the basics. But so, I mean, at the time, you know, really and truly, the only person in that game was Tesla, and they were all set on the number of people applying there. If I wanted to move to Detroit, I could do that, but I was born and raised in Florida. I wouldn't survive. It wouldn't end well for me there in Detroit.
Oh,
So, yeah,
that temperature doesn't work, huh?
yeah, absolutely. I don't know what shoveling snow, that experience. I don't have that. So you may know more about it than I do up there in Ohio.
But on the since you brought up electric vehicles,
Yeah,
you probably saw that BlackBerry's CEO, the board let him go, right? And his whole thing was taking the company in the direction of securing electric vehicles. I
yeah.
mean, that's what BlackBerry is spending a lot of dollars and cents on that. Is there something to that?
I mean, securing
Was he
everything.
on the right track, or just
Uh,
your own opinion since you?
I think we should very much think about the security of these vehicles. They're all going to be connected, right? How they, I mean, in fact, to be honest, most of them already have been connected for a long, long time. OnStar gives the police kind of a
Oh yeah.
quite a capability. If you call up and you say the right things, some of these operators can even shut down the car mid-drive. So, you know, that's with those tools. Certainly need to be securing those things so that bad actors don't get access to that. I mean, I know that there are bug bounties held by like Tesla, for example. You go to, I think, DEF CON a couple years ago, I was there, and they were trying to, anybody that could get the horn to like start playing a random song or something like this, they'd give them the whole car. So I think there's definitely really everything that's going to be connected to any kind of network, and even those things that are air gapped, right, need to be kind of evaluating that security and making sure that you're doing your due diligence, right? Anything can be broken. Anything made by a human can be broken by a human, I guess is the old rule.
I'm so glad you said that,
So
because that gets to, there's a myth in our industry that you spend money on tech and you have 100% cybersecurity, right?
yeah,
And I kid you not. I mean, you look at the amount of spend that's done on pure tech, but what you just stated is the crux of the matter, right? I mean, if it's made by a human being who is imperfect, which all human beings are,
yeah.
they can't yield a perfect product. It's not, there's going to be no such thing as perfect security, unless you disagree, of course, but that
I don't
was,
think there's, yeah, I don't think there's we're always trying to get better, right? I think better is the aim. There's no finish line, so to speak, in cybersecurity, right? It's always something where you're constantly trying to catch more, do more with less. But yeah, I don't disagree at all. Like there's no perfect um, cybersecurity. There's no perfect implementation. And even if there is, hypothetically, right, there's some other weak element in the chain, right? Like even if you had perfect kind of email security, right? Well, people just moved to the humans, the people interacting. They just moved outside of that product altogether, right? I can compromise people instead of the actual security tool. So, I mean, just
which is
an
what happened at
example.
MGM.
Right. Absolutely. They're down for what, 2 weeks, right? I
Yeah,
lose, was 100 million or something like this. I can't
some,
remember.
it was a nice number.
It's a
I could
huge.
have retired.
Definitely.
But yeah, but that's something really critical to understand, and you and your role, as a chief technology officer, illustrating that, hopefully people will understand it,
I hope so.
because we always state that cybersecurity is a business problem. It's not an IT problem, and as a business problems go, you're really not going to solve it. You can manage it properly.
Right. Yeah, I think there's no right. It's more about risk mitigation and business risk than it is about like you're gonna achieve some perfect security panacea, right? Like the most secure thing is to close up shop and be out of business, right? Like that's there you go. But I mean that's not really helpful to shareholders and that type of thing, right? It's kind of always, if we want to get really, really secure, right, we just stop doing things and stop interacting with people and stop, like that'll make us very secure, but it won't make us very profitable. Like in that, so you always have to kind of find that balance of like what risk are you willing to take, right? What are you willing to, do or not do in that from that perspective. So, and I mean that goes, I mean, that's not far from how you look at it in a lot of different arenas, right? Because I did that legal piece, right? There are places where law is quite clear, and someone might still want to move forward with something, right? And even though knowing, hey, well, it could in certain areas it could be looked at this way, or it could be looked at this way. You give a problem to a lawyer, to 50 lawyers, you're going to get 50 different opinions, right? That's the rule they teach. So, in that case, um, there's again, a concept of business risk that when you have these differing opinions, like you still have to decide, is it worth the risk? Are you going to go down that pathway? In security, there's a lot of parallels there from a risk perspective.
So when you're looking at product design, are you folks conducting a risk analysis as to what this will impact before you even start on the product? Or how does risk play into product design, I guess?
Yeah, good question. I don't think we always are, you know, looking at risk first, but it's very, very soon, right? I don't know. It's the absolute first we're thinking about what's the market asking for? What are our customers, partners, what are they looking for in terms of outcomes, right? And what are the challenges they're facing, right? That's really the number one. And then very quickly, how do we implement those kind of solutions in a secure way, both from external threats but also internal threats. So looking at that from that perspective, always looking at so permissions in a privacy world, right? Can we eliminate the ability to even look at permissions? Do we even need that access? Is there a way to prevent us from even seeing certain things, right? And then that's the best, again, to the analogy about closing up shop. Like if we don't have the data, hard to have a risk there. So if we can do that, great.
Right.
Otherwise, you really want to try and think through the entire life cycle of that, in that case, data, right? Who handles it? What goes on with it? How do you obfuscate it? How do you secure it in transit, at rest? All those kind of fun and exciting conversations that we have. But from a product design standpoint, risk is always kind of at the forefront of our mind. I think the only thing that might supersede it at times is kind of what are our customers and partners trying to get from us.
Which then gets to the question, a lot, and this is just speaking experientially or anecdotally, I should say. We've never done a formal survey. I don't think there's been one done across the industry on it, but it seems that the risk conversation a lot of times is somewhat of a nebulous thing inside these companies because nobody understands what they really want to protect.
Yeah.
I I'm saying that, and it's going to be in public now, but it seems it really seems like when you go in and have a conversation. Well, we want to do email security. Why? Well, because we hear phishing is a big problem, and it is a big problem. Okay,
Yeah.
but then you get back to, well, what part of your environment or what vulnerabilities do you think you have in your organization that are exploitable from mail, that make it the number one priority versus another set of vulnerabilities that what are your crown jewels
Yeah.
that can affect your crown jewels. And I don't know that those conversations really take place in a formal manner in a lot of customer organizations. You
It's
want them to, but they doesn't seem like they do, because when you ask the questions, there's a lot of blank stares.
You see that sometimes. I'm not, and also some of the time it's the people that are having those conversations may or may not be the people in the room with you. So, right, oftentimes you have folks that are maybe, I don't want to say the wrong resources, but they're resources that aren't, um, that you wouldn't typically have that conversation with them. That those conversations may happen at a higher level. I know uh, from a legal the CIO, the kind of the leadership in technology spaces, they know the kind of information assets they're trying to protect. Whether they have a good exact list, right? And where it all is located, that's where I would challenge some of them. They may or may not have that. Um, so they generally know they have a problem, but sometimes can't articulate where that problem is, right? Or that concept of unknown unknowns. So that's, for us, we frequently find while we're doing evaluations of our tool, right? It's one of these things of, hey, did you know the CEO is being impersonated and somebody from the finance department's talking to them, that attacker, like,
Oh,
and
give us give us some stories here. That's yeah. That
oh yeah, I mean, so this was I have two of them I can give you. One was, I think this was 1 to 2 weeks ago, where we caught, and we frequently catch these, where I think some of the worst ones were clearly like they're fished. They're just mid-flight of being fished, where you see them interacting with the attacker. So we had someone, CEO, and they do this. I don't know if you're familiar with the term 3D phishing, but they do this quite a
oh,
lot.
I'm not. Please. Yeah, what is
So
3D fishing?
yeah, so it's immersive multi-channel phishing, right? So
Okay.
as we put more and more and more resources into email, right? Attackers recognize that and they, well, we'll go like Cisco, Uber, right? We're going to get you with a text message and then try to pivot into some other system and find another way in, right? And so leveraging, we saw Tishing from Microsoft talked about quite a lot, the what was it, Blizzard storm or something like this. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But them coming in through other vectors that aren't email. When we talk phishing, sometimes folks just narrowly focus on the email. This happens to be an attempt at that 3D phishing. Was the CFO, or sorry, CEO was being impersonated. Right, I have an urgent thing. I got to get this thing paid. Because of I can't remember the horrible outcome that if they didn't get it paid. But this person started responding like, and they said, yeah, send me your cell number. I want to go through the details and make sure that it's really, really clear. So this is something that we captured in email, and then the email trail kind of goes dead. So luckily they were evaluating this. I don't know, lucky or good. They happened to be evaluating this as this thing came in, and we were able to say, hey, you may want to ask this person, right? What phone call they got recently, and if they've sent out this money, because pretty sure this is not legitimate, right? Like we that's one of the ones where they're extremely appreciative, right? And that was a quick. Frankly, they very much wanted our tool in place quickly, and instead of just showing them what is out there, but also remediating it, kind of instantly as it comes in. So as they're trying to move, that's a classic one where give me your WhatsApp, give me your cell phone number, give me something like that, and they want to move you outside of that controlled
So
environment.
what did the SlashNext technology do that identified this?
Yeah, so for us, we do a couple different things in email. This one didn't have a URL. If it did, we have kind of a really exhaustive process we do with URLs. But this one was all a malicious intent-based attack, so a BEC assistant scam specifically. We have
Okay.
purpose-built models for various kind of attack types that we see out in the wild. I think we're at like 23, 25, something now in BEC. We have similar ones from SMS and all that. Um, but we look at the language, right? We understand within an environment as it's kind of learning, what does good communication look like, right? Understanding what are the words being used, what are the things that we're trying to invoke, right? I'm always going to try to get out of the user, I'm trying to excite them, but it's always going to be a user that some trusted authority, whether that's a human being, a person, a company, whatever, right? They're going to come to you. It's going to be urgent. It's always urgent, and there's always a very, very simple, direct ask, right? In this case, right, I need some help sorting out a payment, right? And give me your cell phone number, right? So we understand that from a social interaction perspective, this email address, we never see that interaction with this person. They're coming from some other third party. Why isn't the CEO messaging from inside his own organization? Um, he never has emailed this person. Like, even if you don't go based on the email address, go by the display name, never emailed this person, no history of that ever. um, and then kind of looking at using generative AI to see kind of, is this a generative based attack? Is this an attack that's similar to other ones we've seen, right? Wrapping all that, the natural language understanding, the social interaction, and some of the generative AI intelligence all in one kind of package, we could tell what this was and really identify it as malicious and identify it to them just in time. So
Wow. That's a lot of tech you guys have built into SlashNext. So what are all the the things that you folks are trying to solve
what
with
would you say you
SlashNext?
do here? So yeah, we are a messaging security platform, multi-channel kind of messaging security platform, right? Focusing on email, browser, and mobile, right? So ultimately, we know that all the kind of attacks are going to come in one of those three kind of vectors at this point, right? You're going to
Yeah.
get people. We hear reports of folks getting phished on LinkedIn, right? We just talked to a customer yesterday who their big issue was their executives being hit up on LinkedIn with these random things. Teams, right? Slack, any of those types of things, right? Ultimately, they're trying to drive you to some sort of malicious page, drive-by download, credential harvesting page. So we have a browser extension there. The email piece protection that I just talked about, um, we plug into the Graph API with Microsoft, so we immediately kind of get notification as the message has been delivered and kind of seen by Microsoft, and we immediately analyze it and rip it out of the mailbox if we find it to be malicious. And then finally, on the mobile side, we are doing two things really, which is mobile messaging protection and specifically smishing protection. So those, you probably have one of these recently, that UPS or FedEx notification text that you didn't know you didn't order a package.
Yeah,
Well,
that's so common anymore. It's like when the real people actually send that, it doesn't even get looked at.
Well, I'm here to tell you it's been delayed, and if you could just fill out this URL with some of your information, we'll be able to get it right to you fast. So
Uh-huh.
um, we get that. We get your CEO reaching out right via text. Oh, great, glad you're part of the team. Can you call me here in a minute? Right, all that kind of thing. Lot of, as you said, a lot of tech. So trying to not boil the ocean here too much, but give you a decent picture. Right, email, browser, mobile, really put a bubble around the user and try to protect them anywhere they could be phished. And that's really our kind of unique focus, and really our beyond that has been efficacy, right? We've really gone above and beyond to be kind of hyper accurate relative to the market, and we've seen a lot of folks um, really understand and value that kind of capability. I'm not going to say perfect, right? As we were talking about earlier, nothing's perfect, but
Right.
when we get independent tests done with us and others, we've all of those we've come out on top. So still more work to do. There's always work to do, but yeah, that's I I wonder, is there a
So
particular area that's curious to you?
yeah, it is. The whole AI space. So
Yeah,
if we're using things like Chat GPT to create phishing emails, right? It how do you spot that? And you know, are we getting into a bot versus bot? My robot is better than your robot, or whose robot's better than the because it seems like that these natural NLP engines have gotten really, really good. I mean, they're
yeah.
and it Chat GPT's only been out for less than a year, right? I mean,
Right. I think very end of 2022, but like largely 2023 was people
yeah,
just figuring out, and I think that's what we're all kind of figuring out as we move along. But we were an early adopter, right? Because we felt like this could help us get a higher level of accuracy and other kind of data elements that we can see, how it's less about attribution, it's more about making a decision and seeing, how does a generative AI, if I was on the other end of this and I was trying to create this malicious phishing mail, given everything I know, right, how would I position it? What would I, as that LLM create, right? And looking at those kind of outputs and giving ourselves a supplementary data set that otherwise we wouldn't have, right? How and because these kind of terms, 0 hour, they sometimes are now we used to call spear phishing, right? They're outdated.
Yeah.
Now everything's just phishing, right? Like we can give them fancier terms, but at the end of the day, it's coming so fast and changing so rapidly that it doesn't do it justice. So these generative AI tools, I think, we're using generative AI to fight generative AI. Absolutely. Bot versus bot. I don't know if it's exactly like that because they're not talking to each other, but I think you're hitting the nail on the head. We definitely have some tools now that can give us, an idea of, you look at Worm GPT, Fraud GPT. Our research team found these things, for the first time and started to publish them, right? So it's it's unfortunately very easy to create this stuff, so much so that, when we talk to members of the government, right, the high level leaders, they're telling us like we really can no longer tell just by looking at it alone, what is a
Yeah.
fish and what isn't.
Which is what, so is there eh, something like if a human being that goes in and says, okay, you know what, I'm going to send Stephen a phishing email. All right. So I'm going to go on your Facebook page or Instagram or read about your history or read about some of the talks you've given, and then really compose something that is based on things that you have said and you are likely to have done. That's a human being versus a chat GPT type thing. I don't know how it composes that same message, but is there a, can you first of all spot the human one that this is BS? And if you can spot the NLP one, the natural language process generative one, how do you attribute it that it is NLP generated?
Yeah.
There's
So
a couple questions in there.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'll do my best to pull those apart. So the I think it's less. I really don't. We're not so concerned, right? We're not attribution's less of a concern, right? Stopping someone from interacting with a message with a malicious intent is the concern. So, right, whether ChatGPT came up with it, whether someone wrote it manually, right? It really it's less material to us than actually identifying it as malicious. But I mean, those elements, we're going to be looking at that language. We're also going to look at you. We really have to know you as a person to some degree, and the people that you interact with, what you normally say, and also what people say to you, to do that, to understand, right, and identify bad behavior and malicious intent from that. The generative AI pieces are really, right, giving us insight on, I use a common example to explain it, right?
Okay, please.
Which is your head's down, you're working on something, right? Someone comes up to you and starts talking about who knows what. They ask you a question, Manoj, I need to understand more about this bill. And so, but you're not really paying attention yet. They haven't gotten your attention. They just blurted this out, right? So you stop what you're doing, you look at them and go, what are you talking about? Say that again. And inevitably, when they say that again, right, they use a slightly different wording, slightly different phrasing, right? It's not exactly what they said. And right, if you get enough, if you ask them to repeat it 30 different times in 30 different ways, you would eventually get a very, very, very clear idea of what's going on there, and an idea of the whether and what kind of request this is, what they're really after. And really, that's for us how we utilize generative AI is understanding how an attacker might use a Worm GPT, might use a Darkbird or a Fraud GPT, and compose one of these things. Because you're right, it's super easy, but I would say the concepts utilized to fight it are not that foreign to you. You do them every day, most likely, in your personal life and professional life.
But that requires paying attention to it, right? So like when you said you have your head down and you're working on something, the email comes in, you're just like, okay, I'm going to get this off my plate. I know this answer. You don't go and check the header, where it originated, what.
Yeah,
You don't do any of those things. You just, oh yeah, I know, send.
exactly.
I'm done.
Yeah.
right? So it's that, and I don't think it's possible to pay that level of attention to all these emails. So you need a system out there like what you guys are
Totally.
doing, which is going to
I,
automate
I
the
think it's more of like it's also a question of what do you want your people to be doing on a day-to-day basis? Like, do you want them, frankly, we've trained them up so well that what we hear is I'm overwhelmed now. I get lots of submissions. People are kind of I've heard it over and over from friends and family even at their work. I'm terrified to even look at my email sometimes. I don't know what's going on in there and then, occasionally I click on something and now I have some compliance officer telling me I failed something and so it's just easier for me to try not to interact with it at all. So like you're creating it's this weird environment in email now, where people are, what do you want them to be doing? And frankly, you need tools that are gonna get all this stuff out of their way so that they can just work effectively on the actual job that they were hired to do. So
Well, let's go to another part of the email
yeah,
thing then, which is okay. You folks yourself probably do email marketing. Most companies do some form of email marketing.
yeah.
Is that marketing at all any effective anymore now with tools like SlashNext and other platforms out there? Are they negating all of it because they're saying, you know what, this is all garbage? We don't.
Yeah,
I'm curious. What are you seeing with that? Does this change how we reach out to people?
I think it can for sure. I do know that there are right. So what we see often is in some of the larger segs, some of these older technologies where there's just not a lot of levers to pull. So you get in this teeter totter of like we make it very very secure, and then it's so secure it's also throwing off a bunch of stuff that you maybe wanted to get, or not secure enough, and now you're getting you know everything you expected and way more that you didn't want. So, I mean, I think that that's where we have tried to build, and this is something that literally we're release in the process of releasing now. Is our spam and gray mail protection. So that increasing user productivity is the goal there, and building specific models because it's hard sometimes even with that, you know, is this a legit marketing email or is this actually there's some hidden URL here that's gonna as I try to unsubscribe, now I'm being pulled in deeper to the hack or the attack or whatever that is. So is it effective? I know that it's still effective, but I do see we see in proof of value concepts where other tools will grab our mails, will grab really anything because they're just so aggressive that ultimately these folks don't want to be yelled at by their senior leadership. And so in some of those cases, yeah, some of this stuff is being eliminated. But what we want to do is really try to understand what is normal and what they expect to receive, and what good communications look like, right? As opposed to just filtering everything else that came from an external person, right? You may have a vendor you work with a lot that you want to receive their messages and their company's announcements. Manoj, our emails to you, frankly, I'm hoping that you're getting those, and those aren't being eliminated. Is it dead? I don't know. I think as these, I don't think so, to be honest, because I think it's some of the older tools you had to drop a very large kind of bomb where frankly you needed a scalpel, and because the technology didn't exist for that scalpel, now you can get a lot more nuanced, right, and the machine learning can be a lot more accurate, right, as opposed to a policy
And
based kind of approach. If I see this, then
well,
do
and you know
that.
what? It's interesting you say that because there's been a couple healthcare providers that um, that we know they actually. You're exactly right. They needed a scalpel, but they just nuked everything, right? And you have to tell them that you're sending them an email, and they have to whitelist your email in order for it to even come
Wow.
in.
Sad.
Okay. Now, the net result is they get very few emails, right? They're only getting emails from their known universe, but then they're missing out on everything that's happening and developing out there
Yeah. No, I
in the world,
think
right? You've isolated yourself to a point that you're an island and you no longer know what's going on out there.
right.
I mean,
This is that we talked about it earlier, right? They're in the midst of kind of closing up shop there, like in some sense, right? From a business
right.
perspective, right? Communication wise, they've largely closed up shop, right? And they are getting a lot less risk, but they're also there's a lot of opportunity they're missing out on. You know, folks that legitimately maybe could save them money, could save them time, right? Any number of different kind of things that they might need or might want that they're not going to get exposed to. So it's it's always a challenge, right? What's the best thing for each organization? And for me, I think that if you invest in the right tools and the technology and the processes, don't need to close yourself off to the world. It's kind of disappointing in this day and age that we need to make those kind of decisions, but you know, I have to deal with the world way the world is, not the way I wish it to be. So, but I hear you.
Oh, it's a complex topic. I mean, that bank in Hong Kong
Mm.
that got ripped off for 25 million with a deep fake. That just I don't think we've lit the candle on what's going to happen out here with fraud and with AI entering the mix and how it's going to evolve. I can't imagine what's going to happen. I just can't. But I think I wish I could because then I'd start a company.
I think,
to,
well, I mean, yeah, on that one, as much press as that has gotten, to be honest, there's been you know multiple major phishing attacks that like the technology, it's neat, it's interesting, but frankly, the tools that attackers and threat actors have now, they're doing really well with. Like I don't know that they necessarily need a lot of extra tooling to have you know a lot of extra impact. They're doing a pretty darn good job. If you look at any of the FBI or Verizon reporting on it, right, it seems to
oh,
unfortunately go up every single year, year over year. So but yeah, you're right. There's a lot out there and changing fast, very fast.
yeah, and mobile devices. I mean, I get there is so much of a gap there. Like mobile is an easy vector to exploit to get in. I think it's one of the hardest ones to actually shut down. Personally, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that, and we have this conversation because we protect mobile all the time. It's an attacker, a threat actor. They don't really care who bought the phone. They don't care who's managing the phone, whether it's managed, whether it's a BYOD phone or any of that, right? They don't care if you have a work profile on it or not. They don't care if it's segregated. They couldn't care less about any of it. All the things that we sit and agonize about, you know, from a funding and from a privacy and all that, nobody out there that's on the other side of that, you know, conversation cares one iota. All they need to do and want to do is get a footing, right? And then pivot into other things. So for us, we do have kind of the two variants, right? For the privacy conscious folks, our personal, right? Everything is processed on the device with, you know, minimal impact from a battery perspective. And everything is processed on that client side. It doesn't report home to us. And even some of the organizations, you know, they have to make a choice, right? And they don't like that. But if they install this privacy focused version, they're going to even they're not going to see it, right? So they don't always love that. That's why we have that business profile. This is for the environments that are managed, controlled, right, and can deploy them via UEM or MDMs, right? So
Right.
it I think, in all honesty, whether or not you want to manage it, don't want to manage it, you have the funding or not, like attackers are going after it. Full stop. Like I literally see it
Yep.
every day. I hear it every day. And everybody has this problem looking to solve it. So, um, you know, you ignore it to your own peril, right? Like it's not something that's going to go away, and it's going to get worse over time because there's a lot of data on that thing.
Oh, it's rich. It's rich in accessibility. It's rich in data. It's just.
Huge.
I mean, it's huge, right? I mean, it's the means by which you can defeat MFA. It's so many things that you can do if you compromise someone's mobile device. Um, so I have to ask you here, the last question on have you become a target personally by bad actors because you're involved in trying to stop some of their main means of revenue?
I would assume so. I mean, it really, I was always a target before it, right? Like, so everybody is kind of a target, whether or not they like that idea or not.
Yeah, but some people have special status.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm that honored yet, but I, I know that this goes on. I do the best I can to stay aware and also to, make my family aware as well, about the real world threats. Um, but yeah, I mean, I encounter huge amounts. Yeah, people send stuff to me all the time, trying to get me to react and respond. So I definitely see it. Um, it's luckily haven't really had any major issues with any of it so far. But I mean, I don't typically, right? The people that you're really worried about, they're the ones that aren't typically coming after you. Um, right? It's kind of like, do I walk around the street and worry about a black belt ninja coming in, karate kicking me in the face? Like, not typically. It's pretty unlikely. That doesn't mean I don't, protect myself and have, a plan in place. But I typically don't see these kind of problems so much, and that's also the benefit of this. When we buy, and when we give this away to SlashNext, we also, if executives and folks have family they want to cover, right? I'm able to give this to my mom. Tons of attacks have been mitigated to her, right? I'm able to give this to my wife, put it on her phone. Tons of SMS messages get mitigated by her. So for me, SlashNext has been very generous, but like we do this for all of our customers if they want an option, because right now they probably have no option, right? Delete it
They have
and
none. Yeah.
hopefully it doesn't happen again is kind of that's the hope. And for us, we're giving them kind of a couple different ways to mitigate this and at least reduce some of the attacks that they're going to see. So
So, Stephen, in this last couple minutes here, anything you want to plug? Any appearances, things, anything you want to plug out there?
I
Let
plug.
the audience know about it.
I think that most likely we're always running some form of webinar. Our CEO does some great ones. He just did one with the FBI a week and a half ago. So I wish we had this a little sooner. But I think we're going to be getting out to some more regional events over the summer and in the fall. But I would say, follow us, social media, LinkedIn. As you know, you get lots of interesting stuff from SlashNext on that channel. But the only thing that I would plug, frankly, is the one thing I'm going to throw a little bit more tech at you before I go, which is our browser protection and
Okay.
the threat intel feed that we offer, right? Which is red teams, blue teams, they can subscribe to it as well. This is one thing I neglected to mention. It's the largest kind of threat intelligence database and really, really
Wow.
helpful for hosted, trusted infrastructure. So if folks are interested in seeing that, right, get a kind of 48-hour advantage on any given URL, right? That's something we can help with because we're a first-party provider of that intelligence as well.
Wow.
But yeah,
Fantastic.
I think that's it
Yeah,
for
this
SlashNext
has
right
been
now.
great, Stephen. I mean, we didn't even get through most of the questions, but that's okay. They'll give us a reason to connect again. And as Stephen said, I'm going to shamelessly say, please like and subscribe so we can keep generating this content and having great guests like Stephen on and keep the education rolling in cyber. But Stephen, thank you so much for being here. You were fantastic.
Thank you very much, Manoj. Appreciate you, and good luck to you and the Dark Rhino team. Really appreciate you guys' partnership.